Once, Jesus told a story to the crowd gathered to hear him. He said a sower went out to plant his seeds. As he scattered them, some fell by the roadside and were eaten by birds. Others fell on rocky ground, sprang up quickly, but withered because they had no root. Others fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. But some seeds fell on good soil, and these produced a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. It sounded like a simple story, yet it carried an eternal meaning. What made this parable so powerful was not the farming scene, but the secret hidden inside it. Jesus was not teaching about agriculture. He was revealing how each heart responds to truth. And here is what many fail to realize. The seed is always good. The sower is always faithful. But the result changes according to the soil. In other words, the decisive factor was never the message. It has always been the condition of the one who receives it. Today you are going to discover 12 profound lessons from this parable, teachings that explain why some people grow spiritually while others remain stagnant, even while hearing the same word. And perhaps the most surprising of them will reveal exactly which type of soil you have been without even realizing it. So subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because what you are about to understand can change the way you hear, live, and respond to God's voice. And when understanding arrives, transformation begins. The first lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that the word is sown for everyone. You need to understand this clearly. God does not limit his message to a special group. He does not choose only the strong, the wise, or those who seem prepared. It is written, "Behold, a sower went out to sow." Gospel according to Matthew chapter 13, verse 3. If the sower went out, then the seed was also scattered in your direction. No matter where you are in life today, the seed has reached you. Perhaps you didn't even notice when it fell. It may have come through a word, advice, or an unexpected reflection. But the fact is, it was planted. And when God sows, it is never by accident. You don't need to wait for a perfect moment to receive what he says. The word is not sent only when everything is in order. It arrives precisely when change is needed. It reaches the strong and the weary alike. And it always comes with a purpose. The second lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that the enemy tries to steal the truth. As soon as the seed is sown, an invisible dispute begins. It is not enough to hear something powerful, you must keep it within you. It is written, "Then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in the heart." Gospel according to Matthew chapter 13, verse 19. This reveals that there is opposition against what God plants. Pay attention. Sudden distractions, persistent doubts, and unexpected discouragement do not arise without reason. Often, they are attempts to remove the truth before it can take root. If you do not stay watchful, you lose what you received. Guarding the message is part of the spiritual process. Whoever protects the mind protects the seed. You must learn to watch what you allow to remain in your thoughts. Not every idea should be accepted. Not every inner voice speaks truth. Discernment is a spiritual weapon, and whoever uses this weapon stands firm. Strengthening your inner life requires consistency. Setting aside time to reflect and seek understanding creates deep roots. It is not about occasional intensity, but daily faithfulness. Small moments of sincere attention make a great difference, because consistency sustains what was planted. The third lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that hearing is not the same as understanding. Many listen to the message, but do not allow it to enter their hearts. Sound reaches the ears, yet meaning does not reach the soul. It is written, "When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it." Gospel according to Matthew chapter 13, verse 19. Without understanding, the seed does not remain. You can hear something true and still not absorb it. Understanding requires attention, reflection, and inner willingness. When you decide to seek meaning, the message comes alive inside you. That is when the word stops being sound and becomes direction. And direction transforms paths. There is a difference between hearing and understanding. Whoever only hears soon forgets. Whoever understands keeps and practices. Transformation begins when understanding is born. And understanding never appears by accident. It comes through pursuit. Understanding is a continuous process. Some truths reveal their depth only with time. Those who insist on understanding grow spiritually, and those who grow become inwardly strong, because understanding produces firmness. But there is something many still do not realize. Even those who receive, protect, and understand the word can face a hidden obstacle. There is a type of soil that looks promising but hides fragility, something that only appears when difficulties arise. And it is exactly about that ground that the next part will speak. The fourth lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that emotion does not replace roots. There are people who receive the message with immediate joy. They get excited, enthusiastic, and feel something strong in that moment. It is written, "Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a while." Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 13, verse 21. Feeling is not the same as being grounded. You need to understand this. Enthusiasm is not the same as depth. Emotion may start a journey, but it cannot sustain it. Whoever lives only on spiritual feelings lives in phases. And faith based only on sensation fades when the feeling changes. Roots are built, not felt. Many begin excited and think that already means maturity. But real growth happens in the invisible. Roots are unseen, yet they sustain everything that is seen. If you want to remain, you must go deeper. Because what sustains you is not what you feel, but what you establish within. That is why you should not seek only intense moments, but solid foundations. Moments pass, foundations remain. Emotional experiences inspire, but convictions sustain. When the root is deep, the wind does not overthrow you. And it is precisely when the wind comes that truth is revealed. The fifth lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that trials reveal the inner structure. Difficulties do not create weakness. They reveal whether it was already there. Problems function as tests of spiritual foundation. It is written, "When tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles." Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 13, verse 21. Pressure always exposes what exists within. When everything is easy, any faith seems strong. But it is in tribulation that the root is examined. A storm does not destroy a firm tree, only a shallow one. If something collapses quickly, it was not the trial that caused it, it was the lack of depth. And recognizing this is the beginning of strengthening. You should not fear trials, you should understand them. They are like spiritual mirrors. They show areas that need to be strengthened. What resists, grows. What avoids remains fragile. Those who learn from difficulties mature faster. Each challenge can become inner training. Every pressure can deepen your roots. When you see it this way, the trial stops being a threat and becomes a tool. The sixth lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that perseverance is a sign of spiritual maturity. It is not who starts who proves firmness, but who continues. Persistence is evidence of root. It is written, "He who received the seed on stony places is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy." Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 13, verse 20. Receiving quickly does not mean remaining firmly. Spiritual maturity is recognized in consistency. Whoever has root does not depend on circumstances to continue. Not every day will be easy, and that is part of growth. Firmness appears when excitement has already passed. And that is where many give up, but not those who created depth. You must decide whether you want only to start well or to remain firm. Starting is simple. Continuing requires structure. The root deepens when you remain even without applause, emotion, or motivation. Consistency is proof of inner transformation, and whoever remains grows. Persevering is not stubborn insistence. It is remaining because of conviction. Conviction is born from understanding and strengthened through daily practice. The more you remain, the stronger you become. And the stronger you become, the less circumstances shake you. Because deep roots create stability. But there is still another silent danger that is not in the rocks. There is a type of soil where the root even grows, yet something around it begins to choke it. It is not lack of depth, but excess interference. Something that does not uproot the plant, it only prevents it from bearing fruit. And it is about this ground that the next part will reveal a decisive warning. The seventh lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that worries choke faith. Sometimes the problem is not lack of faith, but excess anxiety taking up space. There are hearts where the word even grows, but it cannot breathe. It is written, "The cares of this world choke the word gospel," according to Matthew chapter 13, verse 22. What dominates your mind determines what flourishes in your life. You need to watch your worries because they compete with truth inside you. Constant anxiety functions like thorns surrounding the seed. They do not uproot the plant, but they prevent healthy growth. When the mind lives overloaded, the spirit becomes weakened, and an overwhelmed heart cannot fully bear fruit. Excessive worry does not solve problems. It only drains strength. It promises control but delivers exhaustion. It claims to be helping, yet it is suffocating. Whoever lives dominated by restlessness loses spiritual sensitivity. And without sensitivity, God's voice seems distant. You must learn to surrender what you cannot control. Not everything depends on your strength. Not everything will be resolved by your concern. Some battles are won only through trust, and trust creates inner space. The eighth lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that the deceitfulness of riches distracts. The issue is not possessing wealth, but allowing wealth to possess you. When material desire takes the center, truth loses its place. It is written, "The deceitfulness of riches choke the word." Gospel, according to Matthew chapter 13, verse 22. What you desire most reveals what governs your heart. Wealth is not the enemy of faith, but it can become its rival. Everything depends on the position it occupies within you. When the heart clings too tightly to what is temporary, it loses sensitivity to what is eternal. Values define direction, and direction defines destiny. You need to examine your desires honestly. Not every dream is healthy. Some goals appear good, but pull you away from what truly matters. When something takes the place that belongs to God, it becomes a spiritual distraction. And silent distractions are the most dangerous. Those who learn to prioritize what is eternal live with greater inner clarity. It is not about abandoning responsibilities, but about ordering priorities. When the inside is aligned, the outside finds balance. But when the heart is misplaced, everything around it loses meaning. Because what rules within governs without. The ninth lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that growth requires removing obstacles. Thorns do not disappear on their own. They must be identified and pulled out. A healthy plant requires clearing the ground around it. Without that, growth becomes compromised. You must recognize what is suffocating your spiritual life. Some thorns are habits. Others are environments. Others are repetitive thoughts. Discerning this is part of maturity. It is written, "Now he who receives seed among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word gospel," according to Matthew chapter 13, verse 22. Notice this, the plant did not die for lack of seed. It stopped growing because of what surrounded it. This shows that environment influences destiny, and whoever ignores the environment limits their own growth. Removing thorns requires decision. It is not always comfortable, but it is always necessary. Some things must be left behind so that others can flourish. True growth involves surrender, and surrender creates space for life. But there is a completely different scenario from this. A type of soil where nothing chokes, nothing hinders, and nothing blocks. A ground prepared, clean, and ready to produce. It is in that soil that the seed reveals its full potential. And it is about this land that the next part will unveil the secret of fruitfulness. The 10th lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that prepared hearts produce fruit. It is not the seed that changes, it is the soil that responds. When the inside is ready, the word finds room to act. It is written, "But he who received seed on the good ground is he who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit." Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 13, verse 23. Fruit is not an accident, it is the result of preparation. You need to understand that fertile soil is not born ready, it is cultivated. A teachable, humble, and willing heart creates an environment for growth. Pride hardens the ground, but humility makes it productive. Whoever opens themselves to learn becomes fertile soil, and fertile soil always responds to what it receives. Preparing the heart requires daily decision. It is not a single act, it is a continuous process. Every choice influences the quality of your inner soil. When you choose obedience, you are cultivating the ground, and cultivated ground always produces. There is no harvest without preparation. Before visible fruit comes invisible work. Roots grow before branches appear. What God does inside comes before what He shows outside, and whoever understands this does not rush the process. The 11th lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that the harvest varies, but everyone can bear fruit. Not all produce the same amount, and that is part of the design. It is written, "And bears fruit and produces, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30." Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 13, verse 23. The difference is in measure, not in possibility. All fertile soil produces. You should not compare yourself with anyone. Comparison creates frustration and steals gratitude. Each person has a rhythm, a journey, and a purpose. What matters is not producing like someone else. What matters is producing what was entrusted to you. God does not measure your life by the size of someone else's harvest. He observes faithfulness with what He placed in your hands. Whoever tries to live another person's calling loses their own. But whoever accepts their purpose blooms with authenticity. And authenticity produces true fruit. Bearing fruit is not competing, it is responding. When you respond to what you received, you are already fulfilling your purpose. The value is not in the size of the harvest. It is in the faithfulness of the cultivation. And faithfulness always pleases God. The 12th lesson we learn from the parable of the sower is that bearing fruit is the final purpose. The seed was not sown merely to sprout. It was sown to produce. Growth is important, but fruitfulness is the goal. A life that does not produce fruit has not yet reached its fullness. It is written, "He who received seed on the good ground is he who hears and understands it and bears fruit." Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 13, verse 23. Notice the sequence: hear, understand, and bear fruit. Fruit is evidence of real transformation. It is not appearance, it is result. And result reveals what happened inside. You need to ask yourself sincerely, what fruits is your life producing? Fruits appear in attitudes, words, and choices. They reveal what is being cultivated within. A life aligned always manifests visible signs, because true roots always generate expression. Bearing fruit is a sign of spiritual maturity. It is not only about receiving, but about transmitting. Whoever produces fruit blesses others around them. And this is the beauty of purpose, reaching beyond oneself. A fruitful life is never barren. Now think carefully. If the seed is perfect and the sower is faithful, then the difference was never in them. It was always in the kind of soil that responds to the planting. This means spiritual destiny is not imposed, it is chosen. Each person decides what kind of ground they will be. And that silent decision defines the entire harvest. Now think honestly, if your life were a field, what would it be producing right now? That question may sound simple, but it reveals far more than quick answers ever could. Because the soil of the heart always shows signs in attitudes, choices, and even in silent reactions. The truth is, no one lives without producing fruit. The real question is what kind of fruit is being generated. The seed has already been sown over you. The calling has already been released. The teaching has already been delivered. So the next step no longer depends on the sower. It depends on your decision. Transformation does not happen when you only listen, but when you respond. And sincere responses change entire destinies. Now tell me something, and answer with courage in the comments. If God examined the soil of your life today, would He find thorns, stones, or fruit? Your answer may reveal the exact point where your change needs to begin. And sometimes, admitting the truth is the first miracle of a new story. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you can keep receiving teachings that strengthen your faith, expand your vision, and help you become increasingly fertile ground. Because whoever decides to grow spiritually never lives on autopilot again.